Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional and entrepreneur from Singapore, Mr. Ho Wei Siong. Wei Siong, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Wei Siong is the co-founder and brand and marketing strategist for Animagine Private Limited. He's the founder of Amplify.io, a platform that connects brands with NFT collectors. So, Wei Siong, before we start talking about Animagine and marketing, tell me a little bit about your own journey.
I'm actually the second batch to graduate in Singapore, professionally trained as animator. In fact, it was a polytechnic. There isn't a university that does the animation program back then in 2000, year 2000, right? So I graduated in year 2000. And of course, the industry was nascent then in the world of animation in Singapore. So we were so-called positioned to use animation in many other ways, right? Because it's a very costly art form.
Correct.
And over time, the company evolved from just doing animation work into more like a full-fledged integrated agency. Of course, our niche is actually using animation and mascot branding to help brands.
And I'm assuming your company Animagine takes its anim from animation. But tell me a little bit about the work you're doing in Animagine Private Limited.
Okay, so we are essentially an integrated agency, helping brands and businesses with their, branding and marketing needs. Okay, so we do a lot of campaign strategy, with all the different platforms and social media, internet marketing. Now we have to, look at the way to help the brand position themselves strategically across the different platforms, find the most cost-effective way to launch a campaign and help to engage their audience, right? In this current day and age is actually overwhelming. Is very competitive. And the good thing about us is that because of our background as an animation studio, we have in a way discovered our own so-called formula to actually help brand personify themselves through mascot, which is a great way to actually stand out among the noise, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so this is essentially what we do.
So when you call yourself a mascot and a brand activation company, help me understand this with an example.
Okay, so I'll use, there's a lot of especially Singapore government, right? We do a lot of projects for the government. Okay, and when you're talking about, for example, the Clean and Green campaign in Singapore, there's this Captain Green. Okay, so for messaging like this, you try to do a national messaging through social media, through TVCs in the past and stuff like that. They're very short-lived because you need to constantly tell a story. You need to associate and make it relevant to the general public. So by personifying this entire storytelling journey into a character, a mascot per se, right? Okay, we'll be able to, be very have a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunity to create very snippet of good story. Okay, that is actually focusing on various messaging, and the message actually change over time, right? Because as the world evolve, as the challenges evolve in the space of environmental conservation and stuff like that, all the stories keep on changing, and having a character with a consistent persona, okay, driving the storytelling across many years, okay, that actually become very useful, and the brand the retention is there. And the moment you mention about this in the context of Singapore, people will be able to remember, oh yeah, that green frog, right? Yeah, so that is a good example of how it can be done. But of course, in the commercial space, how brands are using it, okay, even now we have even evolved into what we call AI virtual influencers, okay, where we can actually create and personify the brand using AI. Those are actually strategies that we actually help businesses and brands craft.
Fascinating. So, Wei Siong, when I was reading about you, you also work on storifying people's brands. My question is, how does the process of storifying a brand work, and how do you ensure a unique and compelling story for each client or each brand?
Okay, I think at the end of the day, just like your particular podcast, right? The brand called you. Every one of us can be very complex. Okay, but at the end of the day, you can only tell one story at a time.
Correct.
Okay, you have to help people understand who you are. So the process is really helping our client, even an individual, to really zero in down to themselves. Okay, like in branding, there's this thing called the archetype, right? You know, are you a magician? Are you a saint and stuff like that, right? Okay, the whole idea, sage and stuff like that. The whole idea is to help the brand or the individual first, be congruent across what they want to do and what they want to say, right? Of course, if your brand stands for something very fun, okay, you cannot be calling yourself, a sage, right? Because in the general context, there's going to be conflict, right? But most people, individual or even businesses, they need help, to align that, especially in companies with multiple founders. Okay, the challenge is, it's not about one person, it's about the entire corporation, the entire culture and stuff like that. So sometimes we have to take a role a little bit like a counselor. We have to do facilitation, we have to help the team come down to understand exactly who they are. And only then you can really begin to personify that brand, right? And create a story to help them speak to themselves first and then to their audience.
Fascinating, fascinating. And when you come across a client who is in a highly competitive industry or has a very, very complex brand story, how do you approach that when it comes to personifying or storifying?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's really come down to true needs of the organization. Okay, so we focus on this thing called true needs, but we do realize that the true needs can change over time. Okay, at the end of the day, at the heart of the organization, okay, or the individual, okay, they have to be very clear what is the purpose. Your why, your big why, right? Yeah, and we do deal with a lot of government clients, and again, time will shift a lot of different needs and stuff like that. But there are certain things that's at the heart, the core, right? Like in Singapore, there's this very big national effort called what we call the national education. Within the national education, for many years, for decades, there are 5 pillars, right? And in recent years, they've created a new pillars. Okay, but the pillars doesn't, I mean, with new pillars, it just simply means that there's additional layer of messaging they need to add into that national education so-called complex role or job to educate Singaporean, the importance of social defense, the importance of psychological defense and stuff like that, right? So now they have included a new pillar called so-called cybersecurity, right? Cyber defense, right? So all this itself are just what we've seen as different like within the hero's journey, that there's different challenges and different milestones that you need to come across. But at the heart of it, why do you even need to do that? Why do you even need to educate Singaporean about national defense and stuff like that, right? So by bringing back to the core needs, okay, that will help the clients understand, okay, and not be chasing what we call all these different new technology. Sometimes the client will tell us, these platforms is becoming the next, go-to platform. Should we be there? Okay, the point is, do you need to be there depending on, whether your audience and the messaging, whether does it speak to those audience as well.
Interesting. The other question that I also had was that, one of your core strengths is animation. So what is the role of animation and other visual storytelling techniques in enhancing a brand's message? Because so far, and I'm much older, than you, it has always been film stars, sports stars, and now influencers. You're talking animation. So how does animation support a brand in its storytelling?
Okay, I think you're correct. Okay, now in fact the social media and all the different mediums have been so-called overtaken by videos, right? Especially now with TikTok, everybody can start shooting videos. What we realize is that the beauty of that is when something that is so common, okay, and you have an animation that stand out among all these videos, right? It actually helps stand out it actually help your character, it actually help your brand stand out. People say, hey, this either very cutesy character or very vibrant character. You just take a look at, for example, Mr. Muscle, right? One of the so-called cleaning brands and stuff like that. You will stand out from all the other visuals. Okay. And the misconception is that a cartoon mascot cannot be personified into actual human, right? Today you can get Mr. Muscle to be dressed up like a real human, or get one of the influencers to actually dress up like Mr. Muscle as a form of influencer marketing and making it fun. So those actually helps in terms of the overall attention grabbing, right? If you're animation by nature, yeah. Yeah, and there's so many other extension beyond that. You can make it into a plush toy. Look at the cube melt behind me. This is our own IP, right? We have actually from simple web comic, we have extended into animations. Now we have plush toys, we have games and stuff like that.
Amazing. And what are some of the key elements that make a brand story resonate with audiences?
Okay, I think we believe in authenticity. Authenticity. At the end of the day, your brand have to be very clear what you stand for, right? The purpose of existence. Okay, once you have established that, take for example, cube melt that we have created. Okay, it really stands for the fact that ice cube that's constantly melting is taking life to its fullest. In fact, we call it living life to the coolest, right? And that is really a very clear backstory we have established for cube melt. Okay, once that is been established and your audience can resonate with it, okay, that will actually help you stand out, and you are very consistent across time. Yeah, and the whole idea then is to how to use that authentic personality that you've created, right, and make it relatable, okay, to your target audience. Okay, we always tell our client, if you're speaking to everyone, you're not speaking to no one, right? Because there's no way to have a story that speaks to everyone, right? Everyone is unique. You have different needs and different type of audience. So they have to be very clear who is the target audience. So once you are authentic, right, and you can craft relatable messaging and stories, okay, to your target audience, okay, that will actually help you reach out and be resonating to this client. And of course, the last of all, right, how do you use emotional connections through storytelling, be it fun, be it touching, be it you're trying to challenging and adventure and stuff like this. All this will actually help you connect at the emotional level.
Fascinating. And the converse of the question I just asked you, what are some of the common misconceptions about brand storytelling, and how do you address those?
I think the most immediate misconception is that brand storytelling is like a one-off thing. They thought that it's like a campaign. They thought that you are just doing this for one-off for marketing purpose, right? The brand storytelling is something that you eat and live and breathe as your brand. Okay, it is truly what not just the founder, the team has to believe in it. That's the reason why sometimes when we talk about mascot, in fact, some brands or businesses we work with, right, there isn't a real graphical mascot being created. The persona itself we have crafted for that brand is more used internally to make sure that everything are consistent, okay, in what they believe. They can still use the traditional graphic videos and what you mentioned, all the other mediums and platforms, right? But the character, okay, and the character is telling a story throughout the entire brand existence, right? That has to be consistent. So it's not like a one-off marketing campaign per se. So I'll say that will be the most common misconception when it comes to brand storytelling.
Very interesting. And what would you say are some of the key challenges that brands face in today's digital landscape, and how can storytelling help?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge now, especially when AI is coming, okay, is that you're really going to be flooded with content. Okay, you're going to be flooded with so much content that the question then is how do you even so-called, I mean, in the growth hacking world, we call it how do you hack the algorithm, right? Yeah, so that's going to be the key challenge of businesses moving forward, and therefore they very often they rely on influencers now, because the influencers are the natural extension of the attention economy. You have branched out to what we call the creators economy, right? Yeah.
Right. Very interesting. My next question to you is, with regard to what you just spoke, artificial intelligence and technology, what do you see the role of technology, AI, in the future of storytelling and Animagine's services.
So I have mentioned earlier about the AI virtual influencer. Okay, so that is going to be more commonly seen. There are already so-called virtual influencers before that, right? It's just that the cost is very high for most businesses to adapt those. Now moving forward, because with deepfake, with all this kind of AI generated face, okay, we are already beginning to help clients develop their own influencers per se. Those are uniquely positioned because brands understand the need for influencers marketing, but at the same time, there are risks in using different type of influencers. At the same time, they also see the fact that there's no long-term returns by working with influencers per se, because they do not actually build their own audience. So using AI to generate their own virtual influencers, that is very lifelike now. Okay, you can't tell it from live human versus because the strategy and the technique we uses now is that the body double are still human. Okay, but we created a completely new face per se, right? Okay, and map it over the live human, and then build a so-called fan base over it. Yeah. Other than that is that, even on our own website now, you go to animagine.com, we are beginning to introduce our own brand board. We are beginning to craft all this knowledge that we have and start putting them on our website. For businesses who just want to understand a bit more about mascot branding and all this kind of thing, they can go in and interact with our AI bot. Okay, that we have trained them to answer all this relevant information that I'm sharing today as well. So that is one another example. Yeah, and there's actually
So,
many more I can go on.
no. I also wanted to ask you another question, which is,
Yeah.
you live in Singapore, and Singapore is the home of so many startups. One of the biggest problems I have seen with startup entrepreneurs is that while they have great ideas in terms of the service or product they want to deliver, it is building their brand and communicating their message, which they generally have a problem with. What can your advice be to startup entrepreneurs to develop the brand, to develop their story, and to communicate with the customer?
I think back to basics is really, what do they stand for? Once they are clear about that, there's many tools out there, like even just going to our brand board on our website now, right? Asking simple questions about, what are different type of brand archetype and brand persona they can take on. Nowadays, with especially with AI like ChatGPT, these are things that they can very, very quickly do. No longer they need to spend hours researching online what is, branding and stuff like that, because with ChatGPT and AI bots like this now, right, they can quickly use the bot to help them at least funnel and align some of the key concept of branding and personifying their brand, right? So that's what I would recommend them do first. Okay, before they even jump to the next stage of trying to create a logo, trying to create all the graphic stuff, right? Because once they understand what is their personality that the brand should be taking, okay, then that will actually provide them a clearer understanding of how should they go to market, how should they be speaking to their market and target audience as well.
Great response. Thank you. Next question to you is that how do you, as the creator or Animagine, maintain the balance between staying true to a brand's core values and adapting the brand story to the new trends and audience preferences?
Yeah, I think what we always tell our clients is also is not what you say, is how you say, right? Okay, yeah, the what you say shouldn't change, right? Because what you say essentially represent your core brand, your core persona, and your core personality, and what you stand for, what's your vision. Okay, what are you bringing to the world? What's the value you're bringing to the world? So back to how you say it, okay, will then take on different approach. So take for example, one of the unique thing about our company is that like for Cube Melt, we also build the games and everything because we have our own in-house tech team. Right, so we can do AR, VR, all these kind of activations, all these kind of interactive content. So these are just what we call modalities, right? You can have many different mode of reaching out, engaging, interacting with your audience. Okay, but what essentially you are saying and you are trying to achieve shouldn't change. So the consistency when it comes to that in terms of brand telling and storytelling, those will not actually change over time. But of course, it's a question of if the client were to very be KPI focused, I want to convert sales and stuff like that. Again, those can take on what we very conversion driven strategies. Okay, again, that shouldn't conflict with your core brand messaging.
Wonderful. So I'm now going to just shift focus and move to your other project, which is Amplify.io. Tell me a little bit about Amplify and a little bit about NFT collections that connect brands.
So it's a very interesting thing. My company have missed, in a way we have missed the golden window, to be very honest, is that we actually know about NFT way back in 2017, the days of CryptoPunk, the days of CryptoKitties, right?
Yeah.
And back then we share the same thought with many people, like, why would anyone spend money buying a JPEG? Okay, but the reality is during COVID, in a way, the good thing that happened during COVID is that the shutdown has given me time to really dig deeper and research and understand what is blockchain and what is, NFT within the technology of blockchain, right? And to layman, what I will just share is that, with attention economy came the creators economy, right? But what about the audience? What's in it for the audience? What can the audience own, on the internet? So NFT essentially, is a receipt, of ownership. Okay, it's a proof of ownership. Okay, and that opens up the entire window of possibility for brand to build what we call true community. Okay, beyond the traditional solutions of those kind of loyalty campaign, membership cards and stuff like that. Those are essentially you don't truly own anything, right? In a sense, it's really just a program for customer retention. But brands that understand NFT, who are moving forward to what we call the Web3 strategy, they should actually look at ways to truly build a community that they own collectibles, that they truly own, and they can trade it, they can sell it, they can keep it if they choose to, right? And for us, the big gap in the market then is that, take for example, Tiger Beer actually launched an NFT collection last year with some partnership with a studio. So I'm into collection, so I bought the Tiger Beer NFT. One of the reasons is because they promised that you get free beer at the beer garden.
Okay.
When I went to the beer garden, I showed them my NFT on my MetaMask. I said, okay, I like to redeem my free beer. And they asked me for my 4-digit PIN. I said, what 4-digit PIN? I'm supposed to go to Discord, connect my wallet, verify my token, open the support ticket, and then they will issue me a 4-digit PIN.
Wow.
I was telling them, who is going to jump through all these hoops just to get a free cup of beer, right? So that essentially made us realize as a team that while the Web3 is very real, it's going to come and continue to evolve over the years to come, right?
Correct.
There's a huge gap between the Web3, and the physical business. And we decided to build a bridge. Okay, so Amplify essentially is that bridge. Okay, so that now, be a community, be an influencer or a brand, when they launch their so-called what we call a digital collectible or digital pass, right? How can they actually interact, with them in the real world or even online? So we built that bridge to allow what we call token gating. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. This is something new that I've learned from you today. And my last question to you, Wei Siong, is, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation, based on your own amazing understanding of branding and marketing, and of course, the digital world, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away?
Yeah, I'll say the first thing is don't be overwhelmed by the evolving technology space. I understand that it's challenging because I have to keep up to it as well, right? Yeah. And because the moment they start chasing the next hype and trend, they without a core foundation, of what essentially is the brand stories, and the brand persona, right? Then they will be quite lost, including their entire internal team. The marketing departments will be quite lost as well. What essentially are we doing, right? Yeah. So the number one thing to do is truly understand who they are, what they stand for, right? Yeah.
Very
So that will be.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so that'll be the lesson number one.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
so lesson number two will very much be in terms of how they strategize across multiple platforms, right? Yeah. The reality is you cannot, unless you have a huge budget, you cannot be good in across all the platforms. Okay, you have to find the one that is suitable for your brand.
Yeah.
Okay. Take for example, in Singapore, there's this platform called Carousel. Right, Carousel essentially started off as a place where people, put up their secondhand items to sell or to give away, right? Right. There are businesses that we know and we work with. Their entire existence is built on Carousel.
Wow.
Yeah, and because they know that is where they can reach their target audience. So they are not on Facebook, they're not anywhere else, right? So I think that is very important for any business to identify what is the right platform to use, okay, and build a presence, okay, on it. Yeah. And I think the third thing is that many businesses, while they put in a lot of effort in generating content and stuff like that, they have missed out on the need for building strong review strategy, right? Yeah. So you can see brands, even big brands, sometimes you go to, Google Map,
Yeah.
okay, you go to their Facebook page, right? Okay, they do not have a lot of reviews. And we find that those are missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Because those are essentially the thing that build trust. Okay, what in marketing, in branding, is always about building the awareness and what's next, right? You funnel them down, and the final part is trust. Okay, you need to build that trust for people to convert. Okay, and I think that part is overlooked very often. So we do want to help them tighten that funnel. And once you have the reach and then you have strong reviews, which is a trust, okay, then you have a higher chance of conversion.
Fantastic. And on that note, and your three wonderful lessons: don't be overwhelmed by technology, understand who you are. Second, you said was select your platform very carefully for your brand, because there are so many platforms available. You need to get the right one for yourself. And the third one you said was have a very strong review strategy for your brand. Thank you, Wei Siong, for talking to me about your journey, about Animagine. I learned many new things about technology and digital marketing and animation from you today. Thank you also for talking to me about Amplify and NFT. Thank you
Thank
for
you, Ash.
speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.